This is a video response to Father Barron comments on hell. It's my first ever YouTube video, so probably my rhetorics aren't as clever and sharp as they might be. And if I might appear a bit clumsy here and there, bear with me please. So, Mr. Barron starts out by stating that there is opposition to the idea of a hell created by an infinitely loving God. Really? Wow! What strange new world, huh? It is amazing to see how he manages to acknowledge the inconsistency, then admits that he rather wouldn't let go of the only instrument the Christian doctrine has really ever had to reach into the fears of its adherents, and then tries to argue his way out of his self-inflicted dilemma. First, he claims that the doctrine is oh so old. As we all know, this is not an argument in any way, but it can't hurt throwing in a bit of assumed authority now, can it? Next, he tries to base one idiotic and completely unproven idea on two other doctrines, and while doing so, he slips in a very interesting side note, possibly unconsciously. He says, and I doubt anyone wants to deny those two, huh? So, what are those two necessary doctrines? Well, rather unsurprisingly to anyone who has made intimate contact with the Catholic cult, it's the God is love shtick and the free will gimmick. God is love. Goes down like honey, doesn't it? It has this kind of mystical, metaphorical, poetic sound to it. It sounds oh so good. And as poetry, it is all fun and dandy. Like elephants are memory. Or fairies are depression. Or freedom is slavery. Such a rhetoric is fine if you're trying to make a point. But they shouldn't be confused for an actual argument, right? You see, once you create a doctrine out of this, you are asserting that, yes, this is an objective reality. And once you start applying the least bit of logic to that stance, it falls apart so shamefully. I actually feel a bit bad when I state the obvious, namely that love is an abstraction of a set of behaviors, feelings, and mind states that we observe in ourselves and practically all other humans. While God, on the other hand, is claimed to be a person with attributes who acts and feels. In essence, the Good Father says that a person is a class of behaviors. Well, I guess that logic makes sense once you've convinced yourself that an insane, mischievous tyrant, completely void of any compassion, is the pinnacle of all goodness. As for free will, folks, we simply do not know whether such a thing exists, and there is no shame in admitting ignorance. I certainly refuse to take anyone seriously who will now quote quantum mechanics in my face. Those who deal with that subject on a daily basis freely admit that they have no clue what it implies. I think it is good practice to refrain from any hasty conclusions here. The Good Father, of course, happens to just know that free will exists. He doesn't tell us how he knows that. Probably it's due to yet another unproven, unprovable, unfalsifiable doctrine that his stupid little cult came up with. He actually has the audacity to give us the old people sending themselves into hell routine. Or, as I like to refer to it, the teaching of the omnipotent shifting of responsibility. The logic is compelling, of course. Hell is really just the refusal of God's love, the eternal no to God. Well, first off, I wouldn't really know what an eternal no is meant to be. It is such a ridiculous concept. As a human being, I simply don't do eternal no's, just as I don't do eternal yeses. If I'm still capable of taking decisions beyond death, And being able to feel the pain of hell somehow seems to imply that the full capacity of my mind's function is still in place, especially if hell is defined purely as a mind state. Then there is obviously no such thing as an eternal decision, because I can still accept new data and change my decisions based upon those. How exactly does a human being reject love, by the way? Love itself, mind you, not the act of love offered by another human being. I can try to love more or love less, but I cannot imagine how anyone would deliberately choose not to be loved by anyone, or not to love anyone, and then go through with it for all eternity. It doesn't make any sense. None whatsoever. Resistance to God causes suffering? Really? When you tell 5-year-olds that they will suffer eternally for not believing the stupid shit that you're forcing down their throats, then they cause their own suffering if they don't believe you? Really? I mean, really? I didn't think so. If refusal to God's love is essentially hell, then obviously I'm in hell right now. Well, I can tell you this, Mr. Barron. I'm suffering tremendously. It's not like I laugh at you and your ridiculous cult, living my own life and having lots of fun in the process. It's not like I have way less fear and I'm feeling way more alive outside Christianity than in it. If this is hell, oh, I surely hope it goes on. Let me finish on a friendly note here. I do understand where the good father is coming from. I really do. His mind is intoxicated with the idea that his joy can, may, and will only come from the self-hypnosis he regularly indulges in, under the guise of talking to his invisible friend. From his point of view, it makes perfect sense to think that not having this feeling, this flow of emotions running through his veins whenever he is using the magic words. It makes sense to think that us poor outsiders who don't do the drug he's doing are suffering immensely from it. In reality, of course, we aren't. We are perfectly capable of happiness. Plus, we get too late once in a while. Doesn't it make you mad just to think of it? Just to imagine that there are people who actually freed themselves of their childhood burdens and came around to accepting reality as it is. I mean, how do those bastards dare to be happy? All without the holy drug, spirit. It's a shame, really, isn't it?